Okay, I want to welcome everybody. This is the first of 6 presentations for this camp. Just want to quickly review what we discussed at the last camp meeting 2 weeks ago, I think it was, in Brazil. So does anybody know or can remember what briefly I discussed? I did 4 presentations, I think it was. No can remember? Put your hands up. Be shy. Who watched the presentations? Don Denisa.
There was more topics. I try again. Is it okay now? Like this? Yeah. Okay. So there was multiple topics.
Jedna z nich bylo porovnání tématu cizoložství a
One of them was comparison between adultery and fornication. There is a difference between New and Old Testament. That's everything for now. Peter? Say again. Why is adultery a reason for divorce?
So I was to say the same. You talk about fornication and adultery. So I tell you that I was to tell you the same, that you talk about fornication and adultery.
Thank you. Magda?
I think we were speaking also about what will be judged if it's the thought or the act. As individual people and as a movement. Where the movement would be with the thought, but the individual the act. Also, there was a little recap about how patriarchy came into the world. And we spoke about selfishness and that it can be in the positive and negative way. That's everything.
Solange, did you say I spoke about adultery and fornication in sort of some general terms? Is that
Actually,
repeat what you said? I didn't write the summary.
I think what I remember that you talk about that in terms about relationship, but the idea was to understand how it works in the natural sense.
Repeat the last bit.
The idea was to understand how it works in the natural sense, I think.
How relationships work.
Yeah, in order to understand how it works in prophecy.
Okay, so who's got the hand? Denise?
One of the presentations was also comparison of the panoramic and dispensational view. So we learned to search for the differences. And we searched it in Revelation 17.
Lovely. Anyone else? How does it work when you do it, Monica?
We were also looking at why adultery is grounds for divorce.
What's the first word? Why what?
Why adultery is grounds for divorce.
So I think we began by just quickly reviewing the work of, does anybody remember the name of the author? Angela Sani? Yep. And the book was called The Patriarchs. And the reason why I introduced this specific book, her works, into the consciousness of the movement several years ago. Does anybody remember the reason why I thought it would be helpful for the movement to understand what she teaches, what she brings to us? Oh, Debbie? 1 second.
To highlight the fragility of patriarchy?
Fragility. Anyone else?
I think it's also to recognize how the patriarchy is involved in all the system, especially in political area, I think,
especially.
in political issues.
So the reason why I introduced this book, because I wanted to make the point that there is no secret cabal. A cabal is a horrible organization. If you're a translator, try to look up the word cabal. It's a very specific word. And I think what I paraphrased it as doesn't do justice to it. But we'll carry on. So it's to identify that there's no secret cabal of a group of evil men that want to take over the world and subjugate women. So in the olden days, you might say the Illuminati is a cabal. The book brings forth I think, the truth that men didn't come together with some agenda against women. The reason why patriarchy developed was three things. I think three things. We'll do Magda first.
Women giving a birth.
Did we do that wrong? Or?
Women giving birth.
I'm going to say physical. I'm going to say physical differences.
That we are from nature selfish.
Humans are naturally selfish. Debbie?
The agricultural economy that existed.
The economy, the way societies work or function. I'm gonna go for society. They're the three things that drive or create. Oh, I'm going to leave it as economy. These three things are the things that create a society that we call patriarchal. So I'm not saying there are bad people. There are. What I am suggesting, if you put those three things together, you put them into a box and you shake it. When you open the box and you pour out the contents, what you get is patriarchy. So I think that's important to understand. So we discussed that, the creation of patriarchal societies. We reviewed that. Then we discussed further about what to me is the most interesting element in these three things. So I'll just put a star by that. And that selfishness, which most of us think has a moral component that is bad or evil, I try to show that selfishness isn't evil. It doesn't have a moral component, especially how I was discussing it. So I offered 3 alternative words, or we decided them as a group. Ego, self-protection, self-worth are all synonyms of selfishness. And we discussed that. Just so that we can remember, not related to this, but a previous study. This issue of selfishness, I'm saying, is all encompassing in human nature. We're selfish from head to toe, from your innermost thoughts to your brain to your fingers. So the mental and the physical is all selfish. And you need to understand that to mean self-preserving. So there can be a positive and a negative side to all of that. And I offered a suggestion in a camp before Brazil. When you think about the negative side of self-preservation or selfishness, there's one antidote that God gives us. Remedy. An antidote is what you give someone who has a snake bite. What do you give them? An antidote. That was, you didn't have to translate, that was to help you. So it's not getting married. It's not having children. That won't teach you to be selfless. Go for it, Debbie.
Paying tithe.
Tithe paying. Good. I'm suggesting that's the reason why we have tithe. It's not to pay for the machinery of the church to continue. So I hope that particular study would reframe tithing in the minds of members. It wasn't to guilt trip anybody, and it wasn't to kick you into giving tithes for a couple of months and then stopping. I was hoping it would serve as a continual reflection that we would understand our nature and our relationship to God. The benefits that it provides to create and maintain a church are important but incidental. Then we discussed the various terms of adultery and fornication. I gave several Bible verses. I haven't offered a proof, but I have stated, as have others, that Revelation 17:2, although it says fornication, is in fact adultery. So we covered all of that. And then this fifth point here where it says grounds for divorce. So I want to ask a question. In Brazil, we have lots of members who have broken relationships, if we're talking about marriage, and they want to leave that relationship and they don't want to remain single. They want to remarry. Now, they may not think all of that before the separation, but somewhere in that process, they want to separate, they get lonely on their own, and they want to remarry. Currently, the movement has no position on that. So I wanted to begin that discussion. So I offered two biblical models. One found in the book of Romans, one found in the book of Matthew. This is grounds for divorce. So one of them is death. That's Romans 6 and 7. And the other one is adultery. And that's Matthew 5. So we then had a discussion, not on the death, because that seems, at least on the surface, intuitively obvious why that would be grounds for separation, if you like. Your partner's dead, so you're on your own. And in that case, you can remarry. So then I asked, of all the things that you get up to with your partner, of all the things you do, the way you interact, you share the cooking, the cleaning, you share the money. Of all the things that you do, why is sex the thing that's targeted? When it comes to grounds for divorce, why is sex the one that God points out? So we had a discussion on that. I don't know if you watched the presentation, but some of the answers that people gave were interesting. So we eventually got to the place. So if I call this A, B, C, D, E, E, grounds for divorce. So there's death and there's adultery, and adultery basically means sex. And I think I came up with the suggestion that sex is the one thing in relationships where your vulnerability is exposed in a way that it isn't in any other part of your relationship. Is that the correct spelling? Yep. Okay. Good. Vulnerability. And in the midst of all those discussions, I did try to remind people not to mix the literal or physical with the spiritual or the divine. You can't use the divine to explain the natural or the human. And people can end up doing that if they're not careful. So that's about all we discussed. I don't know if anybody has any thoughts or comments on that. Nope. One? Monica?
Can you hear me? My understanding was that at the end you did make comparison. You went from natural, like you mixed. Moje porozumenie je to, že na tieto správy
I'm not saying we're not supposed to go from the natural to the physical. I didn't say that. What I am saying is when you develop models, you have to remain only in the natural in order to get an understanding of the spiritual. Okay? So, we didn't get to the place because we'd run out of time. The Bible gives us death. It had always done that. And then adultery, which is sex. And what's this movement asking for? So in the world, there's another reason for divorce. Is that correct? Incompatibility. Or where I live, they use the term irreconcilable differences. Which is a long way of saying we just don't agree with each other. So I'll put it as a subset of that. So if you don't agree with each other, you can just get divorced. So does anybody think that's reasons for divorce? You just don't get along. Yeah?
It definitely would be a reason to not even marry.
Well, oh, clearly you're not going to marry someone you don't like. We're talking about the fools that didn't take care. They did something silly. And now what happens? Sarah?
What's the question?
I don't agree with you, so let's separate. You said, yep, that's grounds for divorce.
Yeah.
Then your next partner that you get,
Hmm.
you don't get along with them, and you divorce them.
Yeah.
And the next partner that you get, I'll say it respectfully, and I'll say it disrespectfully. They become a beast. They get fat. And you don't like the look of them because they eat a lot and you don't. So you disagree. So you can get rid of them.
No, that wouldn't be a reason in my books.
So physical changes don't. But mental changes do.
Well, I think mental change would affect your physical.
I'll reframe my question. When we married, you look beautiful. Mentally. And then something changed, or I got to know you better. And then you said, you can divorce now. So when I married you, you were thin. And then you got stressed, got an eating disorder, got overweight. And I'm trying to say, get your life in order. And you give up on yourself, which means you end up giving up on your relationship and me. And you said that's not grounds?
If you put it that way, yes, it would be.
Okay. So I didn't mean to go here. So you have to trust me on this one. Matthew 24 and verse 38. So this is the sin of the antediluvian world. That's the world before the flood. (24:38). And it says the reason why they're going to get destroyed is they eat a lot, they drink a lot, but we're not worried about that. It's because they were marrying and giving in marriage. So we married, and our parents gave us away in marriage. It's like when your dad walks you up the aisle, gives you away to marriage. I just said both of our parents did it to make it sound nice. So is that a reason to destroy? Is that a reason to destroy the world that you got married and your parents were blessing you and giving you away in marriage? No. So the way it's written there, it sounds positive, marrying and giving in marriage. But in real life, what it meant is that one of the crimes that brought the world to its end was the very thing that Sarah is promoting. Marrying lots of times when you don't like somebody. It's marriage and remarriage for no good reason. And that was enough to bring a flood. So, did you want to say anything more? Denisa. So you're promoting the same ideology as Sarah. If you don't agree with your partner, just get rid of them and get a newer model.
Takto funguje, když mají lidé k sobě nepřekonatelný odpor a velké rozdíly.
Yes, in the civil way, it does work this way when the couples have disagreements and irreconcilable differences. That's a reason for divorce.
And you could do that multiple times because you're hard to get along with. Not you, me. I'm hard to get along with.
I don't think people would usually want to remarry many times. I believe that they believe that it's the partner, that it's the last marriage.
A myslím si, že většina zdravých lidí se poučí z předchozích.
Že většina lidí se poučí z předchozích vztahů. Nebo chyb. That most people would learn from the previous mistakes.
How many times is a good number for you?
Usually people have 2 or 3 marriages.
So 3 is a good number.
Yes.
So you have 1, get rid of them because they irritate you. You go to another one on the rebound because you're emotionally disturbed and you realize that was a bad decision. Then you realize you've learnt your lesson when you're and then you go for a third one, then you go, now I found the right one. No more than 3.
Usually people won't manage more.
You know what they say, practice makes perfect. Anyone else to give us? That you think it's okay to continually marry because you just don't get along with the person? Or if you think this is all silly, you should put up with the people and work through your differences and grow together. Like you do with children, because you don't get rid of them. Solange, what's your position?
Well, my position is not. I think is marriage is a serious decisions, and I think you can commit a mistakes because you are not exempt of that.
Marriage is a serious thing. You got that bit?
But doesn't mean that you are not exempt of committing mistakes in your election.
It's not an echo. She struggles with her accent. It's not her. It's not an echo. You repeat, and I'll repeat.
Okay, I say that is does not mean that you are exempt to commit a mistake. You can commit a mistake when you choose your partner.
So you choose your partner, and you can make mistakes. Even though you know it's serious, and even though you're careful.
I think when you remarriage again, so depends of many factors. You can say that it's good or it's bad. This is the time because have to be a time when the people have to pass something like mourning.
So you have to have a time of mourning. Mourn when you're sorrow.
That's allowed to understand what were your mistakes in that marriage and reflect.
Time of mourning and reflecting. So look on the board, Solange, and help me with this. This is your first marriage.
Yeah.
How many years is that? To work out that it's bad.
I don't know. Depends.
3 weeks?
No.
It doesn't depend.
Yeah, 2 weeks is too early to say. No.
6 months? No.
I think it's hard to say how long is a time. It's a good time for break your marriage.
Everyone who's married, they either know or they've been told that the first year is difficult. So we know it's more than 1 year. That wasn't difficult.
Yeah. I think in the marriage, the more difficult are the 5 years because the characters of these two persons usually are regulating between themselves.
So Solange says you've got to wait 5 years because you learn about one another. It could take up to 5 years for that to happen. And how long's the mourning and reflection?
No,
3 weeks.
no, it's not enough.
I mean, how much is enough?
It depends. I cannot tell you, but I think minimum is 2 years. People do it morning.
So you could tell us. And the second one was 5 years. Then these 2 years. And this is your last one. So marry early. When you add them up, that's a long time. I got 19 years. So don't leave it too long. So I presume everybody who said, if you don't agree with the person, just get married again. None of you actually gave me any reasons besides sounds reasonable. Unless someone wants to offer a reason, some kind of argument or some kind of logic, maybe a biblical principle or something. Let's take a vote. Oh. I wasn't asking anything. Oh, yes, I was. I was asking, give me a good reason, except I don't like you. Perhaps like a biblical principle. Good reason. I gave, I think, a good reason about sex, that it's vulnerability. And when you make yourself vulnerable to someone, you totally expose yourself to them. If they betray that trust, that crime is so severe, you can say, I will leave you. I'm suggesting adultery is such a serious crime. And now we have several people in our group here who say, forget the big serious reasons. You can just separate for any reason that you just don't agree. So we've gone from a really high standard, high requirement for divorce, a high bar, to a very low bar. So everybody can divorce for any reason that they can make up. I'm fed up of this person. You can do it 3 times, maybe more. And I'm asking, are we now into Matthew 24:38 territory? Where this movement now, based upon what some members have said, they want the movement to get to a place where we believe in marrying and giving in marriage. That means marrying, divorce, even though that was considered a crime in the Old Testament. Actually, in the New Testament, because Jesus is speaking when we're speaking of that. So that's what I'm saying, Peter. Before we move on, just need to get on the same page with the tech team. our timing, because technically our time is finished. Are we going to stick to our normal times or not? I guess that's what I'm asking. Our next class begins at 12. So according to our timing, we should finish now. So we're telling everybody online that we're changing the time from 12 o'clock to when? Okay, so we're going to, everybody online, with the next class will be at 12:50, and we're going to go for another 15 minutes. Is that okay? Hope everybody's okay with that. Okay, so over to you. Have I said something that's wrong, that you don't agree with? I've manipulated what people have said, or I've accurately summarized? So I'll summarize. The default position to remarry is your partner dies. Because human beings tend to be bad, as well as unhealthy, God gives us the right to separate on the grounds of adultery. So that we're clear, you can't divorce your partner if they look at people. You can only get rid of them if they act, not look or think. So hopefully we're all clear on that. The crime is the act, not the thought, legally speaking, not morally speaking. Is anybody not clear on that? Just put your hand up, because we've discussed that for quite some time now. Then I asked the question of equality and feminism. Are there any other grounds for divorce? Several people said, if you don't like your partner, that's enough grounds. And I was semi-serious, but maybe it was said in a jesting way, that how many times can you go through this cycle? Before it makes a mockery of the whole thing. Or we become fat, we get fouled of Matthew 24:38. So I've quoted Matthew 24. Does everybody agree with that's what it means? Or does anybody think it means something else and I'm misapplying the verse? Denisa? You agree or disagree?
I don't agree. I think it means something else. Sorry. I think it's a light thinking.
Myslím si, že tam je problém těch mužích, kteří vyměňovali ty ženy.
I think there is a problem with the men who changing the women,
Sorry, problem with what?
with men who changing the women.
Changing.
Yeah.
You mean having new?
Yeah. And I think in the world, people usually want to live in one relationship, have one relationship.
Shemaine says she doesn't understand what you're saying, I think.
That people won't usually live in one relationship. That's the desire.
Sorry, just before we move on, Marco, what did you disagree with what I said? Because I thought I said what you just said. Lots of remarrying.
I had a feeling that you said it in a way.
Ty se mi nelíbíš, jakože máš k tomu lehkování postoj, nelíbí se mi vyměnit.
I don't like you anymore. You kind of like thinking very lightly. I will just change you, stop you. But I don't think people in this world
Which
have
world?
in here in the world
Hollywood?
society, they don't have it set it this way. That's not what they want.
Because we didn't know how to translate it. So she meant the way you are describing it is like carelessness or frivolousness of changing the partners.
If you think I'm being flippant,
Tak si myslíš, že to tak
incompatible and don't agree means for you. Because when I gave a specific example, Sarah agreed with my example.
Do you mean exactly what's the disagreement in between them? What would be the reason for the divorce?
You tell me, in your opinion, on the title is called I Don't Agree With You. Give me a good reason and a silly reason. I don't agree with you. This is a good reason for divorce and a silly reason for divorce.
So the silly one could be you can cook, you don't take care about yourself. In my opinion, that's not the reason for divorce.
What about you don't take care of me? You can't cook and you don't take care of me. You're selfish. That grounds? Or is that a silly one?
There is a role of selfishness there. But I wouldn't support this as a reason for divorce. But ground for divorce, I would say it's abuse.
We leave abuse. Abuse is not, I don't agree. No one agrees with getting their face punched in. But if we were talking about that, I would have written abuse. If that's what we were talking about, I would have put abuse there. You said don't agree, incompatible, and incompatible is not abuse. So you give me incompatible, not abuse examples. Give me a good one.
I also could think that in the Declaration of Independence, we have three things.
Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Yes, life, liberty, and and in the moment we don't understand each other with the partner, we can speak together about any topics, have a different opposite opinions, then I don't feel with the partner happy and I have a right to leave.
Tell me what you don't agree with them on. Just one example where it's a legitimate reason to divorce.
For example, I'm in this movement and I will have these opinions of the movement. I'll be feminist and I will want equality. And partner will demand the patriarchal model and will expect or demand that from me.
Force. Force you to do something. That's what you just said.
That would be already the abuse which you don't want there.
Know that. Force is not disagreements. Force is not incompatibility. You said incompatibility is the grounds for divorce. And you haven't given me one reason yet.
I still think it's there, even though I don't know what it is now.
Like that answer? It's there, but I don't know what it is. Marco, then Sarah. Marco, yeah.
I'm not yet convinced on your interpretation of Matthew 24.
Okay.
Because 2 chapters before, it says basically the same thing. And it doesn't seem to have this application.
Tell me what it means. Matthew 24:38.
It means just to marry.
So they're just marrying, partying, and the flood comes.
Living their lives. Yeah.
Okay, so it's a positive statement.
Yeah, neutral.
So what about if I say it this way? They were living their lives normally, not doing anything bad, and they got blindsided with the end of the world. You think that's what it means?
Blindsided.
It came as an overwhelming surprise. I'm just trying to understand what Jesus meant when he said that. I finished the rest of the verse. It said, and you not that the flood came, took them away. So people are just living their normal lives, and they didn't know that the end of the world was going to come. It came as a surprise. It blindsided them. They were blind to it.
Sounds right to me. Sounds right.
Okay. So everybody out of class, relook at the verse because I don't want to misapply it. Sorry, Shemaine. You don't? Okay, so we're going to close. Unless you tell us we're going over time. No, our translators won't let us do that. So we're going to end. Otherwise, we'll get into trouble. And everybody online, we're going to meet in 30 minutes. I want to thank everybody. Let's close with prayer. Holy God, we thank you that we can be guided and directed by you. I pray that we can have a clearer understanding of the purpose of marriage and the grounds for marriage, and also a clear understanding on the grounds for separation. In Jesus' name, amen.